Welcome to part 2 of Greece in April of 2019. Just a quick word about traveling by boat. You have to be flexible because the weather does not always care about your itinerary. We did not miss any of the islands that were important to me, but we did miss a few due to wind, waves, and the combination of small ports. On the map, there are white pegs, which means we made it, red pegs for islands we missed, and blue pegs are a bonus island that were added to the itinerary to make up for the ones we missed. All in all, I think that Road Scholar did a great job. After Crete, we sailed up the coast of Greece, hitting smaller islands and inland sites. Monomvasia used to be a thinly connected peninsula, but became an island after an earthquake. Today it's famous for really well-preserved medieval ruins in a walled city that you can see in the upper left. And above it is a Byzantine church, and Sarah and I could not resist the idea of hiking up the slippery old cobblestone roads. It was pretty rough work, so we had a spinach pastry and a victory fix after getting back down and boarding the Calypso 2. Later in the day, we visited the island of Spetses, and amygdalata is this almond jelly candy. You can see it in the far right. It was really delicious, and a lot of these islands have local delicacies, and it's really fun to go out and try and find those things and find them in a way that's not particularly touristy. Our last major site with Road Scholar was ancient Mycenae. And these are the famous lion gates that you can see there. I have never been satisfied with the pictures that are available of them, and now I am satisfied that all of my classes will have great images where they can really understand how this monument works. At Mycenae is the so-called treasury of Atreus. This is an elite Mycenaean burial in a tumulus, and it has this amazing corbelled dome forming a hill that would have just looked like a hillside once everything had been covered up. And they called it the Beehive, and I kind of thought maybe it'd be the Beehive because of the pattern of the stones of the corbelled dome. But when I got in, sure enough, it was full of bees, so there's multiple meanings to that beehive. Seeing as we were in Greece, Greece is on the Mediterranean, it seemed like a good idea that to try a bunch of seafood, and Greek seafood is absolutely amazing. At this place, Sarah and I got away for a lunch on our own, and so we went a little crazy and we ordered grilled sardines. We got grilled octopus, fried anchovies, and an arugula salad that were the highlights of this particular meal. There's also some enjoyment to be had when you're checking out islands that aren't really what you were intending to do. And this is a place called Hydra, and in Hydra, they don't allow cars. And so even though it's pretty bustling and there's all of these motorboats, when you start walking around outside of the port, you get a feel for a kind of older way of life, and I really ended up enjoying it. Um, we departed our boat and immediately got into a car. We got out in the early morning, and check-in was much later, so we wanted to maximize our time. And we were staying at a new place, the Athenians' modern apartments, and the manager Vera helped us get a driver. It turned out to be her father, Elias, and we highly recommend both the place and the driving services. Great people. The first site that we were checking out was Daphne Monastery. It's a Byzantine church with gold tesserae mosaics on the ceiling. These are pretty rare places to find. And this one is fairly damaged and under restoration, so it had very few open hours, and I was really glad that we made it a priority. Pretty amazing spot. From there we went to Corinth. And this is a city that had been really wealthy in Greek times, but resisted the Romans, and so most of the ancient city was destroyed. What remains is still amazing, and of course the Roman city that was built is very interesting as well. This is the Temple of Apollo. It's actually one of the few Greek spots left, and you can see that it is under the most impressive Acropolis ever. On the top, up here, you can actually see structures. That's how this Acropolis worked. Pretty pretty awesome. To the right, you can see some things that you can find in the museum there, which is worth spending significant time in. They have some of the portions of the temples that were sacked by the Romans, and on them you can see the kind of colors that Greeks painted their temples. They weren't white, and we actually know what kinds of colors they used. And so now that we weren't with Rhodes Scholar, our group of six started, well, I guess decided to be kind of a bit more gourmet, and Athens has a ton to offer. This is just an example of the kind of things that we were doing. Greek salads are huge. You can see in terms of the freshness, the quality, they look great as well. And to the right is a wood planked sea bream and a baby lamb with rosemary and potatoes. So we spent the next 2 days in Athens itself and finished exploring all around the Acropolis. I had saved the Hadrian era Temple of Jupiter for a day where we could explore more of the Roman era of the city. And this image of that temple with the Acropolis in the background is a really great one for showing how the Romans built on the traditions of the Greeks. On the second day in Athens, it was Orthodox Easter. So all of the monuments and all of the museums are closed. I planned a walking tour and tried to find us as many traditional Greek Easter foods as possible. It wasn't particularly hard. In the upper left is margaritza, which is a soup made from lamb innards and leeks. It was kind of like the lemon chicken Greek soup, if you've ever had that, but with leeks and lamb innards. It might not sound good, but I thought this was one of the favorite things that I ate on the trip. Everywhere you went, there were lambs on spits, including families cooking them in like alleyways. Everybody was getting into it. Near the lamb, and in between the lamb here, that long thin tube is kokoretsi. And this is a little more advanced. It's lamb innards that are wrapped in lamb entrails, so like sausage casing, and then cooked until it's kind of firm so it can be sliced like a roll. And not everybody at the table agreed that this one was great. I thought it was really good, and it was one of those rare opportunities to learn about a local custom that you just don't see outside of Greece on Orthodox Easter. In our last 2 days in Greece, we decided to explore cities outside of Athens that to get some of that ancient Greek flavor. And this is Epitavros, which is famous for having the best preserved Greek theater. It's so far away and kind of remote that once it became a ruin, people weren't really around to haul off the rocks. The lower section is Greek, the upper section is Roman, so you can kind of see the differences in ideas, especially in proportion and comfort. And to the right, that little round thing is sort of the sweet spot. You can talk in a regular volume and be heard anywhere in the theater from that particular spot. The acoustics were amazing. I mean, it was much different than I had imagined. I thought you could hear with some straining. It was like sitting right next to the person who was talking. So the last visit that we made was to Delphi. Now, in the US, we all say Delphi, but the Greeks say Delphi, so it must be Delphi. It has an amazing museum with one of the other great Greek bronzes. This one, the bronze charioteer. It still actually has the inlays for the eyes, so you can see those very lifelike eyes. And if you look really closely, you can see where little bronze sheets with cut eyelashes have been slipped into slots around the eyes. Incredibly lifelike. It was great to see this thing up close. The site of Delphi is on a steep hill, so not everyone can make it all the way up. We decided to take a selfie with the Temple of Apollo, where the oracle breathed in the fumes and gave out the prophecies. And that was what really drove the economy in this incredibly remote place, just hospitality for the visitors who were coming to visit that oracle. At the top was a really well-preserved track, so there was entertainment to be had as well. It was a full city in a place that really only had one product. For our final dinner, we went to a place that did regional specialties. So you can see there Crete greens, orzo with porcini and truffle oil, a local souvlaki, which was kind of like a little flatbread taco almost, but very Greek in flavor. And there's in the upper right, a baby goat dish with zucchini and potato. Um, Lots of regions have local spirits as well. So they brought us a celebration, a Sapporo. We had tried raki on Greece, and this was a lot smoother. And of course, we washed the whole thing down with a final victory fix. So as kind of a final note here, I'd point out there are lots of ways to travel. And in Europe, you can rent serviced apartments where you can do your laundry and have a kitchen to cook in. And the Athenians' modern apartments were just fantastic. They had a deck that we hung out on where you could, as you can see the Parthenon. And I just, I want to put one more big thank out there to Vera and Elias for having us and helping us when we were in Athens, and to Georgia and Rhodes Scholar for making this such a wonderful trip.